Hello everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. Today we're going to make my recipe for macaroni and cheese casserole. This has a creamy and homemade vibe, topped off with some breadcrumbs and spices and baked to perfection. And this is made with elbow macaroni. Without further ado, let's get started. Bring 4 to 5 cups of water to a boil in a medium saucepan. Add half a teaspoon of salt. And next add 1 3/4 cups of elbow macaroni to that water and salt. Cook for about 4 to 5 minutes, stirring once in a while to make sure it doesn't stick. I don't add oil to my water because I want to make sure that the cheese will actually adhere to the macaroni. I grease a small casserole dish. Next we'll grate some cheese. I use low moisture mozzarella and medium cheddar cheese. I also add a little cheese whiz, but you can add whatever spread you have available. I also use shredded parmesan for the top of the casserole. Alright, back to the macaroni. I cook it only until al dente, till it's just slightly tender and still a little bit firm. Drain off the water and don't rinse it, once again so the cheese will stick properly. Place the cooked macaroni in the casserole dish and spread them out nice and evenly. Now on to making the sauce. Start with 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter, then add 3 to 4 tablespoons of cheese whiz. Depends on how saucy you want, how much of this you use, but use the equal amounts of each. And you've got them placed in a medium saucepan over low heat, and just heat and stir until they're melted. Then you add your grated cheese, which is 1 cup of mozzarella and 1 cup of the cheddar, which makes 2 cups total of the grated cheese. Now I add a little bit more butter and cheese whiz because I started with 3 tablespoons of each and I think it needed 4. Add a half to 3/4 of a cup of milk. Again, depends on how saucy you want it to be. It should be on the runny side because when it bakes it will thicken up a bit. And when it coats the spoon like this, you know it will also adhere to the macaroni well. I just added a small amount of flour, maybe 1 teaspoon. That's just to help it to adhere a little bit better yet. Now I add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder to the sauce. This is just enough to give it a little hint of garlic and not overpower it. And whisk all those ingredients together until they're nice and smooth and creamy. And you can see the consistency of the sauce right here. Now pour your sauce over top of the macaroni that's already in your casserole dish. And make sure that that's distributed evenly. Then I use the grated parmesan and I sprinkle it generously over the top. Make sure your oven is preheated to 375 degrees. And then take your casserole and place it in the oven on the middle rack. And you bake it for about 17 minutes. Then take 3 slices of white bread and slice the crust off the edges and chop it into small pieces to make breadcrumbs, and melt a small lump of butter in a saucepan. Take your casserole out of the oven and sprinkle the top generously with the breadcrumbs. And it's okay to use the fresh bread because it will dry out in the oven and crust up nicely. Then I use 2 or 3 teaspoons of melted butter. I sprinkle it over top of the breadcrumbs. Adds flavor and helps it to brown up nicely. Then sprinkle the top with some salt and pepper. And also a generous amount of basil leaves. It really accentuates the top crust. Now place your casserole back in the oven on broil. And then set your timer for about 2 or 3 minutes. And watch it closely. You just want it to brown up nicely like this. And it doesn't take very long under the broiler. And this probably makes enough for about 3 or 4 people. Now it's ready to serve. And you can find variations of mac and cheese from all around the world, but it will always be a favorite homey meal made to comfort and nourish. So I hope you enjoy my version of this. And until next time, happy eating.